This is a system between all stuff on vibration. So you don't hear the links, the mics are sensitive, it's links up. This way you don't interfere in conversation throughout the meeting. Thank you very much.
Also, I just want to make you aware that the meeting is being live streamed, so it's being recorded. Okay, so I'm going to just go through the agenda, and then we have a special guest tonight, so I'm going to put him up at the beginning of the agenda. That's the Bronx Borough President, Ruben Diaz Jr. Is he here? Here he is. So he's going to be going up. Let me just quickly go through the agenda, and then we'll bring up Borough President Diaz. Remarks from the chairperson will be followed by acknowledgement of elected officials and community partners, followed by the district manager's report, as Mr. Henry Butler will give the report. We have 3 informational presentations coming from the Civic and Public Safety Committee, and they'll be introduced by the committee chair, Stacy Ruffin, followed by a public hearing on our capital and expense budget. That report will be given by Anthony Usserev, followed by community announcements, roll call, committee updates and resolution. And we do have, we're going to have 1 resolution from the Landmarks Committee on the Landmarks issue, action on the public hearing, chairperson's report, acceptance of the minutes, and adjournment. So I'm going to take special privilege as the chair, and we have a special guest tonight, so we're going to bring him up first, all the way from Boogie Down Bronx. We have the Borough President of the Bronx, the Honorable Ruben Diaz Jr.
Good evening, everyone. Greetings from God's country to Boogie Down Bronx. I know that you have a full schedule, a full agenda this evening, but I wanted to come by and speak to you. I've been going around the city, hoping to get your assistance, your help, on an issue that's on everybody's mind. We know that housing and affordability in this city is something that every single borough, every single community speaks of. We know that public housing is also on everybody's mind. And every different communities and different boroughs are doing different things. In the Bronx, for instance, we know that when you speak of displacement, you speak of gentrification, there's a number of ways that you can deal with this. A, continue to do more affordable housing. B, make sure that we continue to create jobs so that people can keep at pace with their rents. For instance, in the Bronx, we've had over 40,000 units of housing in the last 10 years. We've decreased unemployment by more than half, where 117,000 more Bronxites are working today than the first day that I took office. And we've been also a part of making sure that we have those jobs in a way where people have dignified salaries. We've been part of the minimum wage increase fight. We've been making sure that landlords who harass our tenants are dealt with. We've been part of the issue of having the right to counsel. But I'm here with you because when you look at all these different housing issues, the one that gets lost on folks is called the preferential rent crisis. A lot of people don't know what this is, but it's an issue that we are now confronted with up in Albany. So when you look at the preferential rent crisis, this happens in rent-stabilized units. And we did a report, and I wanted to come out with this report. If you look over here, this will tell you all of the different units in the different boroughs. Here in Brooklyn, you have over 64,000 rent-stabilized units that are potentially affected by this crisis. So what is a crisis? When you go to a rent-stabilized unit and you sign a lease, ladies and gentlemen, what we don't often know is when we sign those leases, is there's something called the legal rent and the preferential rent. And the legal rent is what legally the HCR, the State Housing Authority, allows for the landlord to charge. If the landlord does not think that they can get the legal rent in said community, you will sign a lease at the preferential rent. The problem with that is that a lot of us, when we do it, we don't know and we think that we're blessed at that preferential rent rate. What you don't know is year to year, the landlord, without any qualms and legally, the landlord can increase your rent, year-to-year lease, until the landlord gets to the legal rent. We had an issue in the Bronx. Gentleman came to us, his preferential rent when the Bronx wasn't doing too well was at $550-something. The legal rent was $1,600 for his unit. The landlord eventually jacked up this individual's rent over 228%. That was devastating to him. And when we started to dive in a little deeper, we saw that this was a real issue, not only in the Bronx, not only in the Boogie Down, Mr. Chairman, but in all parts of the city. We're talking over 200,000 units, or about 200,000 units all over the city of New York. In this community board, and we want you to look at in this community board, we did a breakdown of the different zip codes that touch the community boards where people have preferential rents, and we're speaking about 11,654 units.
Wow.
Could you imagine if every landlord who had rent-stabilized units decided to increase and go from preferential rents to legal rents, what that would mean to so many different New Yorkers in every community? This cuts across the board. So the reason why I'm here is because this can be solved, ladies and gentlemen. I gave you the bad news. The good news is that all is not lost, but we all need to work together. This is why I'm going all over the city of New York, because now in Albany, we know, thank goodness, I don't want to get too political, Mr. Chair, but there's been a change in the state Senate. And with the New York State Assembly, this is the time now where we collectively need to have our voices heard. And housing is being discussed at myriad different levels and issues. What do I mean by that? They're having debates up in Albany now about the 421A program, as they should. They're having rent rights debate, and they should. And we need to make sure that we protect rent-regulated apartments. They're having a debate right now is what to do with MCIs, major capital improvements, and whether or not, when they have one in your building, can the landlord, or should the landlord continue to receive that rent increase, even though the capital improvement has been finished? What I don't want is for all of this debate for the preferential rent and this issue to get lost. Because I know Albany. I was up in Albany. I've been a borough resident now 10 years. But I was in Albany 7 terms, almost 13 years. So I know how this works. I'm here, A, to let you know that this is a real issue, that it affects this community as much as it does so many others. And B, to let you know that all of us have to start talking and speaking with our state legislators. We have wonderful state legislators that represent this community board. But we have to give them the energy, we have to give them the push so they can continue to fight, not only for all of the other issues that I mentioned, but make sure that we don't leave this out. I have 3 recommendations, and then I'm done unless there's any questions, Mr. Chair. Number 1, we have to make sure that we support a piece of legislation that says that the preferential rents should now be the new legal rent. so that you don't have that differential, that difference between the preferential rent and the legal rent. Instead of allowing for the landlords to go to the legal rent, let's just keep it so that the preferential rent is now the legal rent. Number two, we have to make sure that landlords pay the price if they're gonna harass their tenants so they can get out, so that they can then charge the legal rent in case you don't stay at the preferential rents. And then number three, because I know how Albany works, this is not the best case scenario, but not every landlord is bad, and we sometimes have to work with them. If it's not the case, if they cannot pass the piece of legislation introduced by Liz Kruger in the Senate and Steve Simowitz in the Assembly, then what I say is, if it has to be the case, then we should give landlords a tax break so that the cost doesn't go on. If they stay at the preferential rent, and if they don't jack it up or they don't raise the rents, then give them a tax break as long as the tenant does not pay for a rent increase. That's a scenario just in case we don't get the legislation. I say that because I know that they're negotiating a lot. They've done a lot in Albany already, but they're still negotiating even other issues. They're doing the budget. They're doing mass transit and MTA funding. I know they're doing the legalization of marijuana, and there's a whole debate on that, and where revenue should go, and how we expunge the different records from folks. And again, all of the different housing issues that I spoke of. And so if there's gotta be that negotiation, then you know what? Then just give the landlord a tax break. But before we get to that, maybe, if all of us get together, if the different communities get together, we can just flat out pass the Liz Kruger, Steve Simowitz bill, and we can just make the legal rent the actual preferential rent. And so that's why I'm here. We have the report here. And again, this affects all communities, whether it's in the Bronx, the South Bronx, South Brooklyn, Staten Island, and so on and so forth. I thank you for hearing me out. If there are any questions, Mr. Chairman, I look forward to answering them. If not, again, I bring greetings from the North Country, God's country, the Roman Down.
Yes, thank you.
The chair says 2 questions.
Anyone has a question?
Do you have an office in the?
Give your name and.
Oh, my name is.
Hold on, we're gonna give you
My name is Marie Wilson. I just want to know.
Talking to the mic.
My name is Marie Wilson. I just want good afternoon, everyone. I just want to know if you have an office over in the Bronx, because I know people's over there, struggling over there, that's living in these apartments, how they are treating them over there.
That over. Talking to the mic. Yes.
Good afternoon, my name is Marie Wilson. Good afternoon, my name is Marie Wilson. I just want to know if you have an office over there that, because I know a lot of people that live over there in the Bronx, they're having a lot of trouble with the landlords and stuff, and they don't know where to go to get help. And so I would.
So yes, the answer to that, our borough hall is located at, and I'll give you the information.
Okay.
But it's at the courthouse building on 161st Street in the Grand Concourse.
Okay, in the Bronx?
In the Bronx.
Yes.
Yeah, not Yonkers, I gotta get out of here soon before Eric Adam gets mad at me for being quick.
I tell you that.
So I have all the information there. Obviously, we're on social media, we are, you can go to our website, but we also have other elected officials that have been working on this, whether it's preferential rents, or remember that we passed a bill that's called the Right to Counsel, which allows for free legal services to those individuals below a certain income level, so that they can have equal footing with their landlords when they go to housing court. So there are a number of different issues. If you know anyone, the Bronx and Brooklyn, it's amazing because people from Brooklyn don't know if they go to the Bronx doesn't know if they come to Brooklyn. But when you look at all of the different boroughs, we're the 2 boroughs with the same similarities. Yeah. And it's comparable and with the same issues. So, I wanted to come here because I know that just like the Bronx, Brooklyn is concerned about preferential rents, but if you know family members from over there, call them and we'll send them to us. You have here a chair, give you, our number, and, we'll help them out with it. That's what we do every single day.
All right, thank you.
One more question?
One more,
Yeah.
one more.
Yeah, I have a question.
Yes.
So what has been the conversation with the local landlords, in the Bronx? So for example, you have a couple large developers that do have, units under regulation or rent control. So what has been the conversation with those landlords and discussion? Oh, Tyrone Anthony, vice chair of the community board.
So obviously, there's some landlords who are not too comfortable with the fact that you have, the extension of rent regulation. There's a lot of the landlords that we deal with in our borough, they understand the need for it. What we hope for is for landlords to understand that there's more than enough to go around. They don't have to be too greedy about it, they continue to make, their profits on the rents. But there's got to be a place, a happy medium, where, the landlord, as a business, gets what they get, but the tenants, especially those tenants in the Bronx and in Brooklyn and other parts of the city that have done everything they were asked to do for many, many years, paying the rent on time, doing everything they have to do to make the community better. It is the tenants, it's the community that's allowed for the value of the properties to go up. And so, for me, I am speaking to landlords, but more importantly, whether they like it or not, we need to get to the state legislators, because quite often when you speak of injustices, and we cannot leave it up to somebody's good heart. We have to make sure that we are protected by the law. So whether it's rent regs, whether it's MCI, 421A, or in this case, preferential rents, we gotta make sure that we're protected by Albany, whether landlords like it or not.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I'm gonna go on and give, my remarks. That's gonna be followed by the district manager's report. Okay. So I'm just gonna briefly report on some of the activities that I've been involved with since the last public meeting. We had a meeting with Councilmember Cornegie on February 5th, and at the meeting were myself, Mr. Henry Butler, the district manager, C. Doris Pinn, and Ellen Miller from the Housing and Land Use Committee. We met with the council member along with his chief of staff regarding the Van Court project, which is a city-owned vacant land located on Myrtle Avenue near Marcy. The purpose was to get movement on that project from the city. It was awarded to a couple of nonprofits about 15 years ago, and then it seemed to have died. So at the meeting, it was agreed that the community board would send a letter to HPD regarding the status of the project, which we did subsequent to the meeting. And within a few days after sending a letter to HPD, we had a conference call with several staff of HPD to discuss what the next steps would be regarding both the Van Court project as well as the Saratoga Square urban renewal area sites. The largest site as part of Saratoga Square will be the site at Fulton Street and Saratoga Avenue. And I don't know if Mr. Butler, you could have something to say on it. Mr. Butler will have a little bit more to say on that in his report. On Friday, I attended a half-day conference. I think Pastor Dingle, were you at that as well, impact and gentrification?
No.
Okay, so it was a half-day conference on the impact of gentrification on the urban church. Also in attendance was Reverend Dr. Robert Waterman. There were presentations given by academics, Professor Egbe and Professor John Flateau, as well as the local initiative support corporation, that's LISC, and the law firm Goldstein Hall. I attended a borough board meeting on February 5th, and on the agenda, they had two items. One was the census and the importance of having an accurate census count, and I think we're gonna have a presentation here tonight from the Center for Law and Social Justice on that as well. And the census representative said that they're currently hiring, and you can apply online for the census jobs. I think they start at $25 an hour. The second item on the agenda at the borough board meeting was One NYC, which is a planning effort to prepare New York City for an increase in population, which is expected to be about 9 million by 2040. Core values of the planning effort are to address growth, equity, sustainability, and resilience. And the borough board meetings are open to the public, and the meetings are also broadcast on cable TV. Just two other items. I will be giving testimony for the New York State Assembly and New York State Senate joint hearing examining the crisis facing homeowners in Brooklyn. The hearing will be at Borough Hall, and I think there's a couple of representatives from the state officials, but the hearings, so they may say more about this, but the hearing's gonna be at Borough Hall, March 15th from 2 to 6 p.m. The subject of my testimony is going to be property fraud, which is a subject that I have personal experience with. And I'll give a very short version of it, but a perpetrator had forged my signature on a power of attorney, and then they had this signature fortunately notarized, giving them authority to make decisions over a property that I own, which is less than a block from here. The perpetrator was involved, as it turned out, he was involved with several other property frauds, and he was convicted in 2018, and he's now serving time in jail, and will likely be deported after he finishes his sentence. So that hearing is going to be March 15th from 2 to 6 p.m. Brooklyn Borough Hall. I also participated in a panel along with several other community board members on Saturday, March 2nd, sponsored by the Bedford Works Alliance of Block and Tenant Associations. The subject was the role of the community board. Other participants were Anthony Busseret, who's the Landmarks Committee Vice Chair, C. Doris Penn, who's the Housing and Land Use Committee Chair, Stacy Ruffin, Civic and Public Safety Chair, and the District Manager. There were several other community board members in attendance. We were also visited during the meeting by New York State Attorney General Letitia James. And finally, in mid-February, I attended a jobs fair sponsored by Community Board Street Economic Development Committee, organized by Mr. Taiwan Anthony. And the focus of the fair was to provide work opportunities for community residents regarding a construction site on Fulton Street. So that is it for my remarks. We're going to move on to the district manager's report. Oh, I'm sorry. We're going to move on to acknowledgement of elected officials and community partners. I wanted to acknowledge Deputy Inspector Minch and Officer Charles in the 79th Precinct. Detective, is it Faison? Facing, I'm sorry, from the 81st precinct. Okay, and I'm not sure if they want to speak, but it's Lucian Allen from Assemblymember Walter Mosley's office? Okay. And he's gonna be followed by Stephanie Zinnerman from State Senator Montgomery's office.
Good evening. I'm talking to it. It's on. Yeah, okay. Good evening. My name is Lucian Allen. Again, I'm Community Liaison for Assemblyman Walter Mosley. Just one event. We're having a community conversation on the Marijuana Regulation and Taxation Act, MRTA. It's going to be on Thursday, March 21st from 6 to 8 at Church of the Open Door, which is at 201 Gold Street. So if anybody remembers, I guess last time I mentioned the MRTA bill. So this bill basically is working on legalization of marijuana within New York State. So this does not promote recreational use. What it does promote is decriminalization, regulation, and taxation. So it will help to overturn a lot of convictions for low-level marijuana convictions, and also allow people in Black and brown communities to use this as an economic generator of vehicle. Okay, so if there are anybody that is again interested in attending this, the flyers are out front. This will be again on the 21st from 6 to 8 at Church Open Door. If there are any issues that you would like me to relate to the Assemblyman directly, please come and speak to me. I can give you my card. If you do not have the number to the office, it is 718-596-0100. Again, that's 718-596-0100. And please hopefully come out to the event and learn more about it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Test 1 2 1 2. Test 1 2 1 2.
Be sure to talk into the mic. Stephanie Zinnerman is gonna be followed by Joe Grant here. You want us, you have?
Good evening, Bedford Stuyvesant. I have 3 quick announcements to make on behalf of State Senator Montgomery, who, as you know, is in Albany right now, working very hard on the budget with the state assembly members as well. Has anybody, but before I do that, has anybody taken a look at the governor's budget this year? Anybody? So I encourage you to do so. Last year's budget was 169 billion, billion with a B. This year it is 175 billion with a B. So we found some extra money. Right, so that means that our community should get exactly what it needs, yes? Are they just gonna give it to you? No. So what do we need to do? Work. All righty. All right, so quickly, as Chair Plateau mentioned to you, next Friday at Borough Hall, there will be a public hearing, a joint public hearing between State Senator Montgomery, Assemblywoman Wright, and, here we are, and the borough president. So I just want to remind you, we are looking for people to actually testify. And so we're looking for people in these categories. So please share this information. These cards are outside. You can actually fill it out and submit it so that you can testify. So if you are a homeowner who has been denied a mortgage modification or any other financing that you feel that you qualify for, please come and testify. Don't be ashamed. You've all heard about redlining and all sorts of things that have happened over the years. Sometimes these things happen. We have to report them. If you've lost your deed unjustly, if you've encountered someone who's been trying to manipulate you, keep knocking on your door, doing X, Y, and Z, please come and testify. And of course, if you're a part of a Housing Development Fund Corporation, HDFC, we would like you to testify as well. And then, of course, finally, everybody knows TPP. If you have been a victim of a TPP issue, please come out and testify.
That's third-party transfer, right?
Yes.
TPP,
yes.
that's a city program.
So the next thing I want to talk to you about is the senator's recent legislation to end mayoral control. How many parents do I have in the audience tonight? Very good. Well, she is sponsoring a piece of legislation along with Assemblymember David Webburn, to end mayoral control. And one of the proposals is to redistribute, the members who actually sit on the board. And so looking for more parents to be placed on that board and less mayoral appointees. And the other thing they're pushing for is for that board to be responsible for hiring and managing the chancellor. So those are two pieces of points in that legislation. Inside this packet also, there is a guide to youth and career opportunities. If you know young people who need to be engaged, there are a plethora of really great opportunities for them in here. So please, please, please look at that list. And finally, I'm just gonna say something to you about the census, although I know you're gonna have a wonderful, wonderful presentation on Sister Marie from the Center for Law and Social Justice. I am on my way to Albany tomorrow. We will be asking for $40 million so we can continue to do this work in the community that we started last year. But we need your help. So we are asking if you're part of a block association or just talking to your neighbors, start looking at who's on your block. Start thinking about how many people live on your block, because we need to have an accurate count. If we do not have an accurate count, we're gonna lose our representation, and we're also gonna lose the money for services. So please, please, please be a partner with us in the center.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Thank you very much. 2 minutes. 2 minutes. Joe Grant.
2 minutes.
Good evening. Good evening, everyone. Don't worry, Joe won't have to ask to play me off like that. I just want to recap. Last week we had a wonderful Black History event called 12 Years of Freedom at Wingsville. Anybody saw it? Anybody was there? It was a beautiful event, yeah? We're going to try to keep something like that up every month. But as I said before in the beginning, we have to know what you want so we can bring the solutions to you. We, as the councilman's office, my name is Joseph Grant from Councilman Robert Corning's office. I didn't know. So we need to know what your issues are so we can help fix your issues. We don't have the answers out of our own heads, but if you bring the problems to us, we can find a solution or help you find a solution.
Amen.
So we will be having our monthly advisory board meeting on Saturday, on the 9th. I know it's the same time as the Brownstones meeting. Our mistake. We'll fix that in the future. We won't have that again. But this meeting will be about advanced directives and also estate planning. So it's a very interesting meeting for anyone who has anyone who's elder and who's dealing with state situations. Please come out, need information, and that's all I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. Minus Steve Gallows. Okay, and while he's coming up, I just, for members of the public, if you haven't picked one of these up, please do. This has to do with budget presentation. Mr. Gallows will be followed by, is Medina Sadiq here?
2 minutes.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Manas Stein. I'm the Vice President of the Clergy Council, 79 Precinct Clergy Council. Served with Pastor Daniels, which was the President of the Clergy Council. I'm here tonight to invite all the pastors in 79 Precinct area to come and join us. And Deputy Inspector Mitch opened the door for us. He's been a great support for the Clergy Council. We want to see all the pastors come together so we can work alongside with the precinct. Our meeting is every third Monday at John Corps, every third Monday. If you need more information, I'll be sitting in the back, or you could see Pastor Daniel for more information. Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor.
Thank you.
Is Medina Sadiq here? Okay, I think she left. She's the Executive Director of the Bedford Gateway Bid. As Maceo Kareem from Assembly Member Wright's office, to be followed by Nicholas Perry from the Controller's office, followed by Dr. Kim Best.
Good evening, how you doing? My name is Macy, I'm from the Women's Human Rights Office. Most importantly, we have our homeowners and tenants enrollment event. It's tomorrow, 2 to 4 p.m. It's in the multi-purpose room in this building. Please come if you are 65 or older. You can qualify for D-Star, veteran, clergy. You want to update your business. Please come. If you have anything to do with property value, we will have experts from the Department of Finance to answer those questions. So that's one. 2, this is outside. This is the Southern Women's legislative update. It has everything that's passing over me so far. And if you can call the office, which the number is on all the literature, you can get on our e-blast, and then we'll update you on all the other legislation that's coming through from all that's being passed. And I know this was already said, but the joint hearing for notice on the TPT, please come out. It is affecting a lot of people. I only have 2 minutes, so I can't really explain what TPT is, but it is destroying our communities. Please come out. Last but not least, we have the Women in Distinction Award. So if you know somebody in the 56th Assembly District and they're a woman, they've done great things, community affairs, education, they're a nurse and they make you feel good in the hospital. It's outside on the table. You can nominate them. And the census. So census jobs going $25. Please come out. Please understand the census. Please understand why you have to be registered. Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you. Nick Perry, followed by Dr. Ken Bass, followed by
2 minutes.
Karen Cherry.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Nicholas Perry. I'm a representative for New York City Controller Scott Stringer. And tonight I brought you information about the latest work from our office. We just released this report for community members that are interested in immigration. This report is called The Demographics of Detention, Immigration Enforcement in New York City under Trump. Now, this report right here, it discusses the evolution of federal immigration enforcement policy, and it also discusses immigration enforcement within the 5 boroughs. And if you open up this report, it will compare and contrast ICE arrests between New York City and all the other leading cities throughout the country. Our controller has made 3 recommendations for the city working with immigrants, and I'll just read one of the recommendations. The controller recommends that the state should act to restrict immigration enforcement operations inside New York State courthouses. The second report that was also recently released is called Still Running Late, an analysis of New York City agency contracts in fiscal year 2018. Now, for anybody who has worked with or ran nonprofits and or worked with discretionary funds, usually a lot of people, they run into issues with getting paid by the city in a timely manner. Now, this report doesn't point fingers at any agencies, but it does bring light to the issue, and it also has 3 recommendations in the back on how the city pays out their contracts. And last but not least, on March 26th, we are hosting a Bedford Stuyvesant Town Hall for the community to meet with the controller.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I'm Dr. Kim Bass, President of the Precinct Council for 7-9. Our next meeting is on March 27th at Brooklyn Jump 4, 585 DeKalb Avenue. And just to let you know that we're going to be doing our annual Easter egg hunt, and that's going to be either a week before Easter or either before Easter. So we'll be having flyers out at our next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. It's Karen Cherry. Karen?
Good evening, I bring you greetings on behalf of Assemblyman Everett DeLon. Have a good evening, thank you.
Thank you. Do the best. Reverend Kareem?
Good evening, everybody, to the board, to each one of you.
To the mic. We record. So you can outdo it.
No. You know you don't supposed to give a Baptist preacher a microphone, don't you? But 10 minutes, everybody. 2 minutes. We just want to say to everybody on behalf of the Assemblywoman Latrice Walker, have a blessed day. But we just want to share with you that on March 7th, we're having a mammogram truck along with Councilman Lisa Sanders at 560 Sutter Avenue. So anybody 40 years and older, you can come get a free mammogram screening. On March 16th, our advisory board is always the third Saturday at 400 Rockaway. It starts at 10 a.m. Please, FYI, for April 11th, we have our budget address at PS 156 in Brownsville. And I know that everybody knows that on June 25th, we have our Democratic primary. So please start this up. Send the word around that on June 25th, they have changed and have the Democratic primary throughout the borough. God bless y'all. Take care. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is Cynthia here from Councilmember Samuel's office?
And after that, Dan Fisher, A1 Precinct Council.
Hello, good evening, everyone. My name is Cynthia Voices. I know you guys are used to seeing Kim Robinson here, but I just came on her behalf. She couldn't make it. So I'm here bringing greetings from Councilmember Samuel's office. I had a list of things that I wanted to go over. However, I did notice that there were some concerns regarding the third-party transfer program. So I do want to let you guys know that our council member actually held a homeowners and landlord resource fair on this week. I think it was actually last week, yes, at PS5 on February 27th, from 6:30 to 8. During that resource fair, we had over 150 people come out to that fair. They went over, things regarding foreclosure prevention and mortgage modification counseling. They also communicated with tenants about how to make prepared housing discrimination rules, in addition to a host of other things. Another thing I did want to mention is that our council member participated in a panel discussion with Assembly member Al Taylor. That panel was involving the foreclosure epidemic, and she spoke specifically to the third-party transfer program. What I will say is that how the program was introduced into the city council was a little misleading. And so when the city had introduced this program, they said that it was going to be a program to address the bad landlords in the city. What we have found that there have been some homeowners who, specifically Black homeowners who have owned their property for a very long time, and their property is actually being taken away from them. And so what our council member has been doing is she has been actively engaged in trying to work with the city and prevent these homes from being taken away. So I'm going to cut it really short. We do have some services coming out of our office. Our office is located on 400 Rockaway Avenue. You can contact us. Our number is 718-953-3097. That's my time. Okay.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, fence number. What's the number? What's the number?
It's 718-953-3097.
And it's gonna be followed, the last person will be Omaha from Bridge Street.
It's on.
I take full advantage of my 2 minutes. Good evening, everybody. How y'all doing tonight? All right, excellent. We had a wonderful February, wonderful Black History Month. I hope everybody enjoyed themselves. It was a tremendous month. There's some good things going on at the council. And now happy Women's History Month. We're on to the next one. Our meeting is next Tuesday, March 12th, Tuesday at 7 p.m. We will have hopefully a speaker from, actually Chief Hoffman from NYPD. We hope to have her come to our meeting as part of the celebration of Women's History Month. We'll have some other events going on, and we are advertising our fundraising play that we have coming up on Saturday, April 13th. We're doing 2 shows. We're having it at 1958 Oak Street, the multi-service center. The flyers are out in the hallway. A show at 2 p.m. and a show at 6 p.m. The tickets are only $25. However, the early bird special price of $20 is available up until March 13th. So again, that's a play that we're doing, Ugly as a Hard Pill. It's an award-winning play. You look up online, and we're having it at our site where we hold our meetings, the multi-service center at 1958 Oak Street, between Ralph and Howard Adams. That's also the address of where our meeting will be next Tuesday. So I hope to see each and every one of you out at our meeting next Tuesday. I just want to also give kudos to our Detective Facey, who's with me tonight, usually always with us. And our commanding officer, Deputy Inspector Winston Faison, just received this past weekend the Person of the Year award from the NYPD Guardians. That's a big deal. Let's do that. He's a tremendous force in the community. He does a great job at the precinct. It's nothing, I can't say so much more about him, but he's a terrific gentleman. He's always at the meetings. He finds the time to always be there and present the stats of what's going on in the community along with our report. So please come on out to our meeting next Tuesday, 7 p.m. 1958 Oak Street. My time is up. Take care.
Yeah, Mama Holloway.
Hi, good evening. I'm Mama Holloway, Director of Community Engagement for Bridge Street Development Corporation. Just wanted to let you know 2 things, that we have our NBA internship program for 16 to 24-year-olds who are out of school, out of work. We were just told that we could add some more people. So if you know a young person that's laying on your couch that needs a job, 14 weeks, minimum wage is $15, 10 hours a week. They can start as of tomorrow. If you bring them down to our office at 456D Nostrand Avenue. This is for 16 to 24-year-olds who are out of school, out of work. And we were also given notice that we will also be an SYP site this summer. So when the application comes out, if there are young people between the ages of 16 and 21, if you know my history, you know I'm excited that we are finally bringing it back to Bedford with community-based organization. But we will be a site serving hundreds of young people in Brooklyn North. So if you see, if you fill out, a young person fills out an application, they should choose Bridge Street Development Corporation.
Thank you. We're gonna move on to the district manager's report, Mr. Henry Butler.
Good evening, everyone. Okay, for part of my time, I'm going to invite a special guest. She presented at my district service cabinet meeting. She's come up with some very important information from Con Ed. Correct, come up front. We're going to talk about energy efficient to save you guys some money.
Hi, good day. My name is Corral Archa. I'm the outreach specialist for the free LED light bulbs that Con Edison is offering. These are one of the flyers that you should have gotten in the mail or in your email. What we're doing in residential and 4-family homes in parts of Brooklyn and Queens, we're exchanging out all of the old-fashioned bulbs in your house, the regular screw-on sockets. Thank you. That look like this socket, or we have the small socket which are candelabras. These bulbs help to lower your light bill between 75 to 8%. They last 10 to 12 years. They don't break. That's one of the reasons why they last that long. And you have a year warranty with us. If anything happens, we come back and exchange it, a 5-year warranty with the manufacturer. The last thing I have to tell you is that we also have a referral program. Like, we're trying to talk to a lot of PTA members, presidents, or block association. For every home that you refer, that job gets completed, you receive a $25 Amazon gift card. So that adds up. If you refer 20 people, 20 times 25. Again, it's in parts of Brooklyn and Queens. I have a sign-up sheet outside. If you want to talk to me, I'll be here for like another half an hour. My number is 643-3325. I'll repeat it one more time. 646-6. I'm sorry. 646-646-6666. 643-3325. You can call me directly. I can discuss it and have set up an appointment for you.
What's your name?
What's about the wattage?
Karel, Karryl. These are different examples. We actually have the hi-hats that go up in the ceilings like these also. Different wattage. These come in 9, 11, and a 15 watts, which is equivalent to a 60, a 75, or a 100 watt box. So it's the same brightness that you will get, but as you can see, it's lower in the wattage. As you see, we have different shape bulbs also. We have these globes, and the hi-hats, and the small bulb that look like a teardrop, the candelabras.
Mention the most important part, it's free.
It's free of charge, and I also have this flyer outside where you can tell a real Con worker from a fake, because we know we have a lot of people going around in the neighborhood. You don't have to let them into your house. All of our workers have a badge on them that has their ID and also a telephone number. So if somebody knocks and you're not sure, this tells you what to do, but you can also ask them for their badge, so you can call to verify exactly who they are. We never try to switch over your service or anything like that. So if anybody's trying to tell you to do that, they are scammers. Okay? Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Thank you, Karel. And I brought her because I know we all are afraid of being scammed, and that's been going around in the community a lot. That's why I thought it was important for her to come and appear to a quick announcement about the program. The program is free. It will change as many light bulbs as you want them to change. Okay? So please, if you're interested, please sign up with her and get all the information so you do not wind up getting scammed by someone fake. All right, real quick. First, everyone, please make sure you get a copy of this. This is our public hearing today. It's about the budget, the preliminary budget. If you don't have a copy, go out. It's right outside on the table. When we do the public hearing, you'll know exactly what's on the screen will be on this. So please get a chance to go get this. Real quick, the mayor's office, they're starting a pilot program of legalizing basement apartments. That's going to start in CV5 in East New York, Brooklyn. One of the questions I had for the mayor's rep was, in order to legalize your apartment, are they going to be giving funding, which will allow you to legalize your basement apartment? And second, if you do legalize that apartment, does it become permanently in the rent control, rent stabilized category? They're supposed to get back to me on those questions. So, but that's a pilot program that's starting in East New York. Second of all, well, first of all, if you want the district manager's report, it's the pink paper that's outside. That's the district manager's monthly report. For the post office, those who use the Halsey Station on McDonough and Broadway, that's supposed to reopen this week. The Department of Buildings, they're looking to be more proactive in our communities. Liaisons now will be doing more site visits to address complaints. Also, local law 28 passed by the City Council states DOB, Department of Buildings, cannot write fines for business stores front signage that may not be in compliance. However, the sign is causing an unsafe condition, the summons can be issued. Any sign not in compliance has to be removed. Department of Transportation at my borough service cabinet meeting, they did a presentation about the electrical vehicle charging initiatives. The mayor has a commitment to create the largest municipal EV fleet. A total of 700 EV have been purchased so far. They want to do chargers, charger stations and DOT lots and garages pursuant to local law 160, which passed in 2016. DOT has installed 39 level 2 EV chargers. The EV Advisory Committee meets regularly to discuss strategies for curbside level 2 charging and fast charging stations. I won't speak about the census because they're here to do a presentation. Real quick, Mr. Plateau mentioned about our meetings with Councilman Cornegie and with HPP, Housing Preservation and Development. They are initiating with the community board they call the Bed-Stuy Neighborhood Housing Initiative Plan. They're going to be looking to develop, as he stated, the sites on the Van Court, which is on Myrtle Avenue between Nostrand and Marcy, across the street from Marcy Playground and the Marcy houses. Also the Saratoga Square property, which runs from on Fulton from Ralph to Howard and Howard to Saratoga. We are pushing to get an RFP, request for a proposal, out as soon as possible. We have been waiting 15 to 20 years to get these properties developed. There will be community outreach.
Just stay in touch with the community board as far as about community outreach that's going to take place on that. So this is something that we are very excited about. If you want more information about these projects that are coming forward, you should be attending our Housing Land Use Committee meeting, which meets the second Wednesday of every month at 6:30 p.m. in the boardroom. All our committee meetings are open to the public. These are the last two large properties in CD3. Of course, our goal to make them as affordable as possible within the guidelines that they set upon us. Just remember, the community board, we are just the first step in that process. After we deal with it, then it goes to Borough Hall, back to city planning, and then to the city council where the final say so. But if you want your voices heard in the beginning of this process, you need to be attending the Housing Land Use Committee meeting, which meets the second Wednesday of every month. 6:30 in the community board office. If you have any questions for me, you know I will be here all night. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Butler. We're going to move on to our informational presentations. Three that will be coming from the Civic and Public Safety Committee, and they will be introduced by the chair of the Civic and Public Safety Committee, Stacy Ruff.
Good evening, everyone. The first presentation will be given by, ladies, come on up, Emil Adolph and Lori Daniel Favors. They are from the Center for Law and Social Justice. They will be speaking mainly about the 2020 census. And as you know, I'm the timekeeper and have to go. You're from my committee.
So before you get started, Dan, what about this dance that A1 Precinct is doing real quick?
I'm so glad you asked me. The tickets, you can get the tickets for the play at the precinct, 5718-574-0433. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dan.
Reclaiming my time. As the PowerPoint is coming up, first we want to say thank you so much to the members of the community board for allowing us to present. We bring you greetings from the Center for Law and Social Justice, which is a racial justice law center founded 33 years ago based at the illustrious Medgar Evers College. I would like if everyone could, in just a moment, take a quick look at the image here on the wall. It's a lovely family, and we picked this image because we want to strike at your heartstrings. We know that the census does not tend to be the most exciting topic, but we want to be clear that it is absolutely vital for addressing every single issue that appears before this community board, particularly for communities of African descent. Next slide, please. I'm going to speak quickly because I want to respect the time, so slow me down if I need to. Essentially, the census is a survey. It answers three basic questions for government. Who lives where? How many of you are there? And what are your needs? So, for example, if you are a young person living in a community of a lot of seniors, if the census does not see you, then your community is going to get a lot of funding for seniors and no funding for you. If you are a senior living in a community with a lot of young people, and you don't show up on the census, and the young people do, then the census is going to provide funding for those young people and no funding for you. Next slide, please. Just want to give you a bit of a flow chart to show how this works. Every 10 years, the Constitution requires that the census survey is taken. Once that survey is taken and that data set is provided to the government, that data set is then fed into federal formula that determines the distribution of nearly $800 billion annually, and it also determines our political representation. So if you live in a community that should, by your population count, have access to 5 political representatives, but only enough people in your community fill out the census to get 2 political representatives, and that means those 2 political representatives have to do the work of what the 5 should be. They have the budget of 2 when they should have the budget of 5. They have the votes of 2 when they're missing 3 additional budgets. Next slide, please. You can actually skip on down to see another happy white family slide. Going on down, keep on going. Yes, one more, or a couple more, yes. Beautiful black family pictures should show up. As this family is showing up, I want us to imagine that you live in a community where you have 500 children. But in your community, for whatever reason, only families for 100 of those children fill out the census. When all 500 of those children show up to PS3, show up to PS21, show up to Boys and Girls High School, that school, which only got funding for 100 children, has to provide teachers, resources, computers, and everything that those children need for the full 500. If you are a senior citizen, and you live in a community where there are 10,000 senior citizens, but only 1,000 senior citizens fill out the census, that means your community is going to get funding for senior citizen centers, accessory, geriatric care, healthcare, adult services for 1,000 people. But then your community has to make do and provide the needs for all 10,000 on the budget of the one. What we are asking for the Center for Law and Social Justice is that you get census ready. We are so glad that people are talking about this, that our elected officials have pamphlets outside, but we want to hone in on Central Brooklyn because Central Brooklyn plays a particular role in the state of New York. For those of you who are not aware, Central Brooklyn is the largest congregation of Pan-African descendants outside of the continent of Africa and Brazil. And Central Brooklyn is also one of what we call the hardest to count communities. And I'm going to now pass the mic to my colleague Camille, who's going to talk to us about why being a hard to count community is so particularly dangerous for communities of African descent and what is at risk for that.
Skip forward the slides. I think a couple more. Thank you.
This is what happens when you talk too much.
Okay, so why Central Brooklyn matters. Many of New York City's communities are considered hard to count. However, as we just stated, approximately 80% of the Brooklyn population lives in a hard to count area. And a majority of people who live there are in communities of African descent. So in 2010, Brooklyn and Queens had at least 50,000 residents that were not counted. Brooklyn had the highest undercount compared to any other borough and lost about $2,687 per person in federal funding. Because of that, Brooklynites lost jobs, investment in infrastructure, and other vital community resources. Children under 5 and African descended men were the highest undercounted demographics in 2010. So we're looking to leaders like you to help us reach these demographics through schools, faith-based organizations, recreation centers, and other outlets. For the 2020 census, there are a few changes that we should expect. First of which is that the census will be available digitally. It will be accessed online, so in addition to the traditional written form, written version of the form, as well as conducting the census via phone, you can now access it online. And there is some backlash regarding the digital access because of broadband access and lack of trust of putting your information out into the internet. However, this opportunity is still available for our communities. Okay. Could you go to the next couple of slides so you see Check Black? One of the things that we also want to highlight for you is that for the first time, people of African descent will be able to not only identify racially, but we will also be able to identify ethnically. So if you are from the Deep South, if you are from the Caribbean, if you are from African countries, if you are part of the Afro-Asian community, for the first time, you will be able to not only indicate your race, you will also be able to indicate your ethnicity. This is very important because we know that outside of the United States, the word Black operationalizes very differently. It has different meanings, some of which are positive, some of which are negative. We want to be clear, if nothing else, that when you have an opportunity on this census to identify, feel free to write in Nigeria. Feel free to write in Trinidad and Jamaica, whatever flag you'll be raising up and down Eastern Parkway, jump over and do that. However, for the protections that we need that are racially derived, be they voting rights, be they gentrification awareness programs, be they prostate cancer, fibroid research, and all the medical issues that the Center for Disease Control looks at when they're looking at funding, we need you to check Black. We need you to put the negative opinions aside. We can talk about the politics of the word at a later time. But this will be the first time that African descendant communities will really be able to avoid having to make a choice. And we will really be able to operationalize our community in a way that recognizes who we are and allows us to get access to all of the race-specific programs and funding that is available out there.
What we need from you is to join the New York City Black Leadership Advisory Coalition for Census 2020 and to get involved, thank you, and to get involved with the Center for Law and Social Justice Census Justice Project. The New York City Black Leadership Advisory Coalition for Census 2020 is a Pan-African coalition that is trying to connect with fraternities, sororities, religious institutions, civic organizations, housing, whatever you are a part of. We want to partner with you. We have a much longer version of this presentation we'd love to share, but we need partners. We need to have you as the trusted voices either bring us into your spaces, or we can have you come to us and we can provide training, we can provide information. If you join our website, we send out information almost daily about the jobs that have been referenced. We are partners with the Census Bureau and with the Brooklyn Borough President's Office Complete Count Committee. There is a lot at risk. When we're talking about $700, $800 billion in resources and political representation, having this wonderful new majority in the Senate is great, but if we don't keep it, it's not going to do us a whole lot of good. So we are really asking, pleading with our community to become more civically engaged. We know there are reasons historical that are largely driving why we do not show up in the census, but we have to now come of age. Community-wise, I'm almost done, and we appreciate you for taking this seriousness to the next level because our community's ability to defend its very existence essentially depends on it. Thank you.
I just had a couple of comments. I mean, they just gave a presentation is really critical for this community. New York will be looking at losing 2 congressional seats. New York was called the Empire State because New York 50 years ago had the highest number of congressional members. And now we're going to be, I think, 4th, 3rd or 4th.
We may lose 2, we've lost at least 1 for the past 3 censuses.
Right. And we may lose 2 seats, and it's critical, this issue about the undercount. But just 2 things I wanted to drill down about. One, could you talk about the citizenship question? I saw the slide went through real fast, but you didn't mention it.
Yes.
And then the second thing is, could you just clarify on whether people can check both an ethnicity and a race, or are you saying they should just, could you just clarify that?
Okay, so I'll do the second question first. Please check both. Please check both. My mother's from Jamaica, I'll be writing that in, but I'm checking Black as well, right? So if you are from, you wanna write in Alabama and check Black. Doesn't matter to us. The most important portion is the racial category. So even if all of us listed our ethnicity is not a protected class necessarily in this country. Race drives voting rights, race drives discrimination. So we have to identify racially in order to capture the benefits such as they are for that. With regards to the citizenship question, thank you so much for raising that. The Trump administration had made an attempt to insert a question that was going to ask everyone about citizenship on the census. We believe this is a politically motivated census. The Center for Law and Social Justice provided pro bono legal representation to the New York State Black, Puerto Rican, Hispanic, and Asian Legislative Caucus to appear as a VP in front of the court. We were very pleased that Judge Furman ruled in our favor and found that everything the Trump administration had attempted to do to get this question in was just dead wrong and in violation of their own policies and procedures. That said, the Trump administration then appealed. They bypassed the Second Circuit and went straight to the Supreme Court, and those oral arguments will be held in April. So we are moving as if worst case scenario, hope for the best, but prepare for the worst. So, and we ask you to visit our website, clsj.org. That's clsj.org. You can sign up to join our coalition online. But we are really pressing forward as if this question is on the census, our people are already prepared. We know how this works. We know how they do. So we have to prepare as best we can regardless.
So right now, the citizenship question is off, but the Trump administration is appealing that.
Exactly, that's exactly right. And there are other cases that are pending. There are a number of cases that have been filed in various jurisdictions across the country. But we're not putting our faith in that. You know, I'm a voting rights lawyer. I'm not putting my faith. I'm putting my faith in my people, and I'm putting my faith in our ability to organize effectively to defend ourselves from everyone.
Can you talk quick about U.S. Code Title 13 about the privacy about information not being published? A lot of people always thinking that information is going to be out there. Can you talk about that?
And as Camille mentioned, there's an extra concern about this because it's going to be digital for the first time. They're trying to get almost, I think it's like an 85% digital turn-in rate. Title 13 of the U.S. Code absolutely strictly 100% forbids the release of individualized census data. What we are allowed to get is neighborhood data. So if I'm a business and I want to find out where should I invest, and should I invest at the dollar store or should I invest for Nordstrom's, I can look at aggregate census data and determine what's the socioeconomic characteristics of each particular neighborhood. Do I know where Camille lives and who is in her house and what their names are? Absolutely not. And if I were at the Census Bureau and I released that information, not only could I face up to 5 years in federal prison, but I could also face fines of over $250,000. It is strictly forbidden. The census information is currently protected by that code, and so we are asking that if you are completely okay with the census, you're not quite sure, you're really not feeling this, turn it online, you can pick up the phone and ask them to send you a paper copy. You can pick up the phone and call in your answers, and the Census Bureau will take it for you. So there are multiple points of contact that will allow you access to getting this information submitted.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're gonna move on to our next informational presentation. The next presentation will be introduced by Stacy Ruffin, the Chair of the Civic and Public Safety.
Hello, the next presentation will be given by John Waldman of the American Red Cross on Home, Fire, Safety, and Sound, the Alarm Campaign. Is Mr. John Waldman here?
Anyone from the Red Cross here?
Once, twice, 3 times.
Okay, great, thank you. So the next presentation will be given by Jahai Rose. Jahai is from the Civilian Complaint Review Board on Citizens' Rights when they feel that the police has misconduct has occurred. From the Civilian Complaint Review Board. Jahai Rose. And you have, how many minutes? That's right.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening. My name is Jahai Rose. I'm the new outreach coordinator for the Civilian Complaint Review Board, covering the boroughs of Brooklyn and Staten Island. Quick show of hands, who knows what the CCRB is? Great, okay. For those that don't, you guys are keeping me employed. Perfect. So for the CCRB, we are a city agency, independent of the New York City Police Department. Our responsibility is to investigate, mediate, and in some cases, prosecute police misconduct. So if officers are alleged of misconduct under these 4 categories, that will fall under our jurisdiction. So we use an acronym called FATO to remember it, as F, which stands for force that is unnecessary and excessive. So if a police officer is doing something to the extent of punching, kicking, slapping someone, using an impact weapon like a baton and or taser, or drawing their weapon unnecessarily, that can be investigated by an agency. That is activity that's force that's unnecessary and excessive, but if that force by the police officer made you feel uncomfortable, you can make a complaint to our agency, and we can investigate it to verify if that police officer was in the right or in fact in the wrong. We have A, which stands for abuse of authority. Abuse of authority could look something like police officer stopping someone for no viable reason. So in the event police officer says someone fits the description, and when you actually look back at the 911 call or listen to the 911 call, that person in no way, shape, or form fits that description. Police officers are conducting that type of behavior, they can be invested by our agency. In addition to sexual misconduct. So police officers are asking for sexual favors, catcalling, or trying to engage in sexual activity while on the job, then they can be investigated by our agency as well. In addition to police officers doing something as simple as this, covering the name and badge number. Police officers use to uncover their name and badge number because they are mandated by law and by the police patrol hand guide to give that information upon request. It'll be abuse of their authority in the event they cover their name and their badge number when their information is requested. Last but not least, for abuse of authority, if they call into the question your immigration status. Police officers are employees of the city of New York, not the federal government. They do not execute those federal warrants when it comes to immigration. And the city of New York makes it very clear that they are not supposed to be asking those type of questions. Asking those type of questions is considered abuse of authority with our agency and can be investigated. D stands for discourtesy. If police officers are discourteous to members of the public, using foul and vulgar language, using discourteous gestures to members of the public, they can be investigated by our agency as well. And last but clearly not least, abuse of offensive language. If police officers are using offensive language with members of the public, they can be investigated by our agency. Offensive language can sound like officers using terminologies that negatively describe someone's race, religion, sexual orientation, and or perceived disability. If an individual makes a complaint to the CCRB, there are pamphlets outside. There are numerous different ways for you to be able to get in contact with their agency. Easiest one, call 311. Who here is familiar with 311? Perfect. You call 311 and you ask for the CCRB to make a complaint. The first person you'll get in contact with is an intake specialist. That intake specialist is going to listen to your story, and they're going to pull from that if it falls under our jurisdiction or not. Let's say it doesn't. In the event that case does not fall under our jurisdiction, we do not drop it. That information gets forwarded over to the agency's jurisdiction that it does fall under, and with a letter notifying them of exactly why it was forwarded over. So there's a soft transfer from us over to the other agency. But let's say for the sake of argument, your complaint does. In the event it does, you have the ability to, in the event it does, the intake specialist is going to listen to your information, listen to that story of what happened with you and the officer, and then they're going to pull what falls under our category. So let's say, for the sake of argument, an individual was walking, police officer stopped him. They believe the police officer stopped him for no reason. It's abuse of authority. If the individual got hit or hurt by the police officer, that'd be force. And if the individual police officer called them out of their name, used a derogatory statement, they could either be abusive, either be a discourtesy or offensive language. They're going to investigate each one of those allegations independently. So in the event one thing doesn't fall within it, in the event one thing can't be corroborated, something else might be able to be. But that officer is going to be held accountable for what does fall under our jurisdiction and what can be proven. In the event the allegation that you're asking about does not involve force, you do have the ability to mediate that conversation between you and the officer. So for the sake of argument, you do get put into a room with a table, it's kind of like one of these tables, and you and the officers sit on opposite sides. There's an independent mediator in the center, and you have the ability to just talk it out. If that police officer apologizes and you accept that apology as being, and you're satisfied by it, then the case goes away for the most part. The complaint against that police officer with the CCRB does not stay on that police officer's personnel record, and our investigation stops at that point. Let's say, for the sake of argument, you do not believe that that apology from that police officer was sincere, everything goes back on the table. That complaint stays on that police officer's record, and our investigation goes all the way through to completion. Now, our agency has what's called subpoena power, and with that subpoena power, we have the ability to pull information that we need. So let's say body camera footage, dash camera footage, 911 calls. We could pull footage from any camera that may have been showing what happened in the midst of that altercation, in addition to subpoena witnesses that may have seen what happened during that time period. We talk to the individual officer, and we speak to the individual that made the complaint. There are 4 separate outcomes from an investigation. One is a substantiation, which means that we can prove with viable evidence that misconduct actually occurred. Then you have an unsubstantiation, just means that we don't have enough information to be able to verify that misconduct occurred. Then you have unfounded. Unfounded means that with the evidence that we presently have, nothing happened at all, to the extent that the two individuals may not even come in contact with each other. And last but not least, an exoneration. When we do these outcomes for these cases, it's weighed against the police patrol hand guide. Is everyone here familiar with the police patrol hand guide? Okay, it's a book, collection of laws and best practices for police officers in order for them to conduct their daily duties. That being the case, if police officers step out of the line of that police patrol hand guide, then they can be held accountable for it. But when police officers fall within that police patrol hand guide, even if it made you uncomfortable, that case could be exonerated. So even if your recollection of events and your information that you gave to us was right to the T, if that police officer was acting correctly, then that case would be exonerated. Our board goes through the process of ensuring that they make the determinations regarding the individual cases, and so our board goes through those in each individual case. They make the determinations. From that point, it goes over to if it's substantiated, we then go to court. Our APU unit then goes to court with the at the One Police Plaza, and we then take that officer. So we then put that officer kind of through a trial to verify that this actually took place, and 2, how that police officer needs to be disciplined. From that point, the commissioner of trials makes a determination, and then the commissioner of the New York City Police Department has the final say so. That being the case, we ask individuals to engage in this process because it gives us an ability to be able to make conversations about legislation. One piece of legislation that did. Yes, sir. So one piece of legislation that did come from this process of the CCRB is the Right to Know Act. So for those that may not know, the Right to Know Act changed the way police officers are allowed to interact with the public. They now have to give you a business card if they're asking you about a crime, which is a level 2 and level 3 interaction. They have to, that business card has a name and badge number on it. On the flip side, you can comment and or complain about that police officer's actions, then their interaction. Shows you how to get the body camera footage as well. In addition to that, police officers now also have to explain why they're having an interaction. Last but not least, the right to know act is also the right to know something. In addition to the right to know something, it's the right to say no to something. So police officers, if they have limited to no justifiable reason for searching you, they now have to ask for your permission to conduct a search. And you have the right to say no to that permission for the search. So in the event a police officer needs to conduct that type of search, they'll say something to this effect, and I'll close on this. I would like to conduct a search of your person. I require your permission to do so. You have the right to say no. Once they've notified you of the right to say no, that should click in your mind that they have really no justifiable reason for searching me or no reasonable suspicion for searching me. In the event you say no, at that point, the conversation should be over by the search. And if you say yes, whatever is on your person is cited as liable for search. Thank you all very much for allowing me.
Thank you, Mr. Ross. If anyone has any questions, you can see him, he'll be in the back for a few minutes. Thank you very much. We're going to move on to our next item, which is the capital and expense budget. Now, this is one of the few things that is mandated by the city charter, so the community board has to have a public hearing on the capital and expense budget, and you're gonna have an opportunity to provide feedback. So if you haven't already, please make sure you have this handout is in the hallway. And we're gonna go on to the presentation on the capital and expense budget. The presentation is gonna be given by the budget coordinator. One of the budget coordinators, Mr. Anthony Usaret.
Right.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Anthony Usaret. I'm, as Richard said, Mr. Costa said, I'm one of the budget coordinators for Community Board 3, and we're going to do a walkthrough of the mayor's preliminary budget and the agency responses to our requests that we made in the fall. So, the next slide. Just a quick overview. The city fiscal year is from July 1st to June 30th. So fiscal year 2020 begins on July 1st, 2019, and goes through June 30th, 2020. There are two types of budget requests: capital requests and expense requests. Capital requests are long-term projects that improve facilities and infrastructure. And expense requests are annual things for service delivery and program operations. Next slide. So at the preliminary budget stage, it was informed by things that happened in the fall and in the summer that was contributions from city agencies as well as community board through the community needs statement and the community board budget request that was submitted in at the end of October. So in February 7th, the mayor introduced his preliminary budget, which is a response to all the community board requests that all work that happened in the fall. And that's the stage we're in now. Our work now requires us to respond to the preliminary budget in preparation for the executive budget, which comes out in April, and which leads eventually to the adopted budget, which the city council will approve in June. Next slide. So we submitted 23 capital requests and 25 expense requests. Of the capital requests, 6 were funded, 2 of which are continual support. 1 wasn't funded, 11 were referred to another source, and 5 were referred for the study. For the expense requests, 9 were funded, 2 not funded, 5 were referred to another source, 5 were referred for the study, and 4 were listed as will try. Next slide. So, the capital, requests that were funded, the development on Fulton Saratoga for affordable housing, was funded, or is in the process of RFP, which means it's a funded project. Roadway maintenance on Jefferson Avenue between Stuyvesant and Malcolm X. Roadway maintenance on McDonough Street between Stuyvesant and Malcolm X is also funded. The upgrade of a boiler at Bedford branch, and boiler and windows at Bedford branch have been funded. And then the continuing support is for roadway maintenance on Hancock Street between Marcy and Tompkins, and the new sanitation garage.
Which is a $200 million plus project, that new sanitation garage.
And I think Mr. Butler, in a little while, will talk a little bit about how the sanitation commissioner has done a final sign off on that. You want to know?
You want to talk about the sanitation garage now?
We'll do it at the end.
Okay.
Next slide. So things that were not funded or need further support, need further study, I'm sorry. Bond King renovation of the kitchen and the pottery kiln was not funded. And for further study, the renovation of the 13th Regiment Armory, which is the armory on Marcus Garvey, needs further study.
Also known as Pamoja House, run by black men.
Reopening the Bedford Avenue entrance and station turnaround on the A and the C was for further study. And roadway, added street light, added additional street lighting for Hancock Street, Jefferson Avenue, and Macon Street between Ocean and Marcy.
Excuse me, Anthony, that reopened Bedford Avenue, that's the AC line, correct?
Yeah, AC, yes. Next slide. The following items have been, the agency said that we should seek other sources. So they said that we should request funding from the borough president or the city council member for the following items that are related to reconstructing or upgrading parks. So the St. Andrews Park, which is on Kingston Avenue between Atlantic and Herkimer for complete renovation. That's we were asked to refer that to the borough president of the city council member who represents the area.
Quantity, I think, right?
Yes. Charlie's Playground, which is we're asking for, which is located between Tompkins and Troop, and Barry and Ellery near the Tompkins Avenue side. We're asking for a new basketball court and renovation of the garden. El Shabazz Playground, which is adjacent to PS 256 on McDonough Street between Stuyvesant and Malcolm X. New equipment. Jackie Robinson Park, which is adjacent to PS 21 on Malcolm X between Marion and Chauncey. Potomac Park Playground for a complete renovation. That's the playground on Halsey Street and Tompkins, adjacent to the former junior high school 258. And John Hancock Playground for renovation. That's adjacent to PS 3 on Bedford Avenue between Hancock and Jefferson. We also requested reconstruct of the renovation of the pump station at Saratoga Park. The Macon Ranch needs a new the repair of the rail retaining wall, and there was a feasibility study done about what was that 6 years ago about expanding the year-round use at Costco Pool, which is located on Marcy and DeKalb, and that's also been referred to funding for the borough president or city council.
That's another huge project.
Yes.
Yeah.
Finally, two items were referred to for federal or state funding, which includes upgraded boilers, secure doors, and pest control at the district's public housing, and an upgrade of the roof and complete interior exterior renovation of the Marcy Bridge of the Next slide, please. So these are the expense items that were funded. We asked for new programs to maintain and create home ownership opportunities. That's been funded. They're assigning, how do I say this? They're figuring out a way to assign additional building inspectors. They will be providing expanded and enhanced sub-youth employment, as well as cornerstone and beacon programs. There's a program with the Department of Health and Hygiene for reducing the rat populations. And then there's continuing support for expansion of middle school after school programs, as well as the city is trying to figure out a way has committed to figure out a way to providing homeowners in landmark districts to receive grants or loans to ensure that homes will not fall into disrepair. And the expansion and occupational skills training is also been funded. And finally, there will be some sort of pedestrian safety traffic calming coming to the intersection of Nostrand and Atlantic Avenue. Next slide. Not funded, there was a request for a feasibility study for the parking lot at the Old Girls High School on Halsey and Nostrand because it's underutilized and for use as green space or some kind of public plaza. And also there was a request for a senior focused resource center that was not funded. Things that they said we further study include programs to destigmatize mental health problems. The city has committed a large portion of funding, and they raised the flag of analyzing where those resources have been used already. Providing greater resources for workforce development for young people needing foster care. Tax incentive programs for neighborhood businesses to improve their space. A program to expand kind of co-working and lab spaces for the community, and expand financial incentives for job creation and retention. Next slide, please. So there were 4 items that were designated as we'll try to fund. Increase the enforcement of dirty streets and clean area laws. Increase resources for confidential, particularly our request for leader property fraud enforcement and awareness raising. Enhance rental subsidy programs and increase certification support for minority-owned, women-owned, and local and emerging businesses. Next slide. Finally, this is a combination of things that were identified as needs further, seek other sources. We were asked to go to the, or present as a council member about expanding the collection of the African American Heritage Center at the Big Pine Branch. The city has, since the request was submitted, the city has opened an office for the census, and so that request was sent to that office for a response. And we requested improvements in city through technology infrastructure. That was also designated to another department. Finally, they are requesting that 2 of the requests that we had, we encourage local eligible organizations and nonprofits to submit to RFPs that will be coming out, which include the expansion of elementary school after-school programs and local street front facade, storefront facade improvements. Next slide, sorry. And so at this stage, we're here to respond to the city's response to our request, and then that information will lead to the executive budget that will be presented in April. Next slide. So how to get involved? There are a couple ways. You contact your city council member about issues that were important to you, for the ones that they supported and the ones that have been designated for them to, you request for them to support, and you write, call, or attend public hearings. And finally, you can join a CB3 committee, which will start work this month on fiscal 2021, which starts next July.
Okay, I mean, this man did a tremendous presentation. Analyzing the city responses to our request. So, at this time, we will take any questions or comments from the public on the budget presentation.
Questions.
And, when you get the mic, if you could please give your name. Okay.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jaleesa. I'm the VP of Vernon Avenue between Marcy and Ocean Block Association. This is my first time here. It's my first year actually being a part of the Block Association, and we did have some concerns that kind of directly concern the budget. When we did have our meeting, we spoke about overcrowding and how that's affecting us. But the two things we spoke about were rodents and also grants for owners. And if it is funded, what programs is it for the rodents and for the homeowners to get grants? Because we do have a lot of homeowners who are kind of in financial difficulties right now. So where do we look for that grant or look for that loan? And as well, what is actually being done if there is a budget for the rodent problem? How is that being fixed? I don't kind of see it at all.
So I'll take the second part first. The homeowner program will be for homeowners who live in historic districts. And so Vernon is not part of one of the landmark districts, so that wouldn't be included in the program that would fund.
Oh, that's good.
And you want to talk about the rent?
I do the road one. So Bedford, Stuyvesant, and Bushwick, CB3 and CB4, we have been designated as, I guess you can say, for lack of a better term, a rodent infested district. So there is a special program by the city and from Borough Hall to sort of deal with that. One of the things that they're doing, like commercial strips, that they are replacing the old style baskets that are open with the more enclosed baskets. Also, on the residential blocks, you can request the Department of Health. They will come out and do an inspection of your block without anyone getting fined, because usually they come out and they see any issues with someone's property and not taking care of their property, they warn you or they can fine you. But we can have them come out to do an inspection, let you know what's going on, whether issues or concerns are taking place on your property when it comes to rat infestation. And they will do what they call a rat academy. That's part of the programming that they do. They come out and basically do a class and train the block members on what they can do to reduce the rodent issues within the block. I mean, part of the problem with Bedford Stuyvesant is because of all the construction that's taking place. So when you start digging, excavation, you actually go into their homes, and that's bringing them out. When there is any sort of new construction, the developers, they have to bake the property before they get a permit from the Department of Buildings. Before they get a permit from the Department of Buildings, they're supposed to bake the property. But sometimes they may get a exterminator that said they've done the baiting, and they may actually have not. That's what we depend on the residents to let us know what's going on. The second problem is the restaurants. We have a lot of restaurants that are opening up in our community, and bars, and a lot of them may not be using a private carting system to dispose of their trash properly. City sanitation does not pick up trash from businesses. They have to have their own private carting system, and a lot of them are not doing that. So if you see a situation where there's a business near you or on the commercial strip, it's supposed to have a sticker in their window that states the carting company that they're using. If you do not see that sticker, you need to inform my office, so then we can send the Department of Consumer Affairs out there. But yes, it is an ongoing issue problem, but the focus is on Bedford Stuyvesant and Bushwick to try to deal with this problem.
Can I add just one thing? I do want to mention that from my visual, We do have a lot of people here that don't know how to dispose of the garbage. When I was growing up, if you didn't bring your garbage can outside, you got a ticket. Now, we're being very lenient with a lot of laws because of gentrification. And when people do put out their garbage, what's really happening is they don't put it in cans. The rats actually have a field day on the street because nobody knows and nobody's getting fined. And the landlords, to be honest, are nowhere around. They own about 7 buildings now. So even if you find them, they're probably not even going to care, probably not going to hire someone to dispose of the garbage properly. So how do we communicate with the people just to say, hey, just put your garbage in a garbage can so the rats don't come and bust out the doors? I mean,
So you're on Vernon between what and what?
Marcy and Nostrand.
Marcy and Vernon, so I know the block. So, do you have a block association?
Yes, we do.
So I would recommend when you have the block association meeting, myself or the chair or Ms. Ruff, you can come out to your meeting and discuss these issues, concerns with, your block members. But, we do have a pamphlet and leaflets to deal with how to dispose of your garbage property and things you can do to reduce, the population of rats on the block. So that's something we can talk offline afterwards on how to deal with that.
Okay, any other questions from the public or board members on the budget? Yes. Hold on, we're going to be getting the mic.
Thank you,
Get the mic.
I'm sorry, which committee?
What is your name?
Stephanie Zimmerman.
Thank you.
Which committee will continue the conversation about the budget ongoing?
So it's every committee's responsibility to discuss the budget. And this year, TJ and I are rolling out a process so that folks will have some kind of information to the budget coordinators by the end of our year this year, so that we're on top of things for the next year.
So you have questions in more than one committee area, just in terms of what was presented and specifically those things that were rejected. We have to come to all of those committee meetings, or can we submit something in writing? How
So the way it works is, if you want to get more involved, you want to join a committee, that's welcome, but there's will be a period in the fall where the public is surveying, and you can submit your suggestion or your concern, in the survey, and then we evaluate all those things and we add those things to.
Well, that's the district needs assessment that's gonna happen for next year, but I'm just talking, are we just?
Things for this year?
Yeah, I'm talking about for this year, are we going to try to address what they denied? Because honestly, the budget this year went from $89 billion last year, it is now $92 billion. So I'm not quite understanding why they're denying any of the requests that we put forth from this community.
So,
Well, we're one community board, citywide is 59.
Yeah, I know, but I just want to fight the feds die, so I'm just saying, are we fighting or
I
are we just going with what
We gave requests from, and we submitted 25, I think it was 25 capital. 23 capital requests and 25 expense requests. So if there's something that you feel strongly about, let us know, and we will probably have to go to one of the elected officials.
And we'll send some letters to them as well. Okay.
So just to also follow up on that, like, we do submit our responses to the Office of Management and Budget. That's the agency that we do it on the budget request. So we will be submitting responses to them on the preliminary. And then, as he stated in his presentation, the city council will hold public hearings that we will advertise for the members and for the public to attend. I myself have testified at public hearings on the budget for particular budget items. So it's a community board, but it's also a community involvement process also. The community has to get involved. And we will definitely disseminate that information to the public.
Just one last thing.
Well, smart, man.
Transportation, the transportation committee.
Yes.
Can we request that we have a hearing on trench repair? We know that it's really severe in our community and they keep telling us that they don't have the money to do it, but.
So let me speak on that. So, yes, and I've pointed for various times about the trench restoration project that's taking place. For those who don't know what she's talking about, when you see a street where it's constantly, it looks like a pothole really is, it's dipping low and it's sinking in.
Department of Transportation will fill it in, and then a few months later, it dips low again. That's called, that needs trench restoration. Basically, underneath the street, there's the wood planks that they're putting that holds it up. That's supposed to hold the street up. But because that's not being repaired, DEP used to repair those, Department of Environmental Protection. They stopped doing it. So it's Brooklyn and it's Queens really have the most street that need trench restoration. So we were able to get funding. We submitted 5 or 6 blocks. In the first round of funding, they funded Hancock between Marcy, Tompkins and Marcy. But the other 3 blocks were not in the first round of funding. So there's another round of funding that's taking place. So yes, we constantly are fighting with Department of Transportation in the city to get funding, to get our other blocks into that second round of funding. Once again, that's us, the community, and the city council members, whoever district that those streets may be in, to request that we get those other streets within the next round of funding. So that's what we've been on top of that.
For 2020, we got 2 of those ones. Jefferson, between Stuyvesant and Bedford, Malcolm X, and McDonald between Stuyvesant and Bedford.
So 2 others have gotten that.
Hi, this is Dr. Deborah Lamb. I'm asking about the borough president's priorities. Have you provided the borough president's priorities so that we can see how our community board priorities are aligned to?
It happens at the same, it happens at the same time. So they're working on it. We don't have to, it hasn't been presented yet. It's presented as also as a response to the preliminary budget. So he hasn't.
What's the time frame for that?
It's
for the borough presidents?
Priorities, so that we can see exactly how our requests are aligned to the borough president's priorities.
So we're not sure of the time frame when the borough president is submitting his request. That's something we can look into tomorrow to find out what the borough president's priorities.
My name is Wesley Hall. Pardon my ignorance. However, the topic said capital funding. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, capital would be for long-term investments, public investments, so, things that involve a lot of money and they're gonna be, have a useful life of greater than 1 year. So that's what a capital.
For example, one of the projects that was funded was the new sanitation garage for CB3 that finally got funded. Our garage right now is actually CB1, Community Road 1, and Community Road 1 actually voted to not renew the lease. Which means if that lease doesn't get renewed, the garbage trucks are gonna be in CB3 parked on the streets. So hopefully that the city will get that lease renewed, but that's why our garage is now. So that's a capital project. That's gonna be a brand new sanitation garage. And right now the price is
$200 million plus.
$200 million.
Where's it gonna be located?
It's gonna be located on the corner of Park Avenue and Spencer, I believe.
That's like, what is that, Fort Greene?
No.
It's in Ward 3.
That's in Ward 3.
It's in Bedford.
But that's a project that they're actually going to start renovation on. They wanted to start renovation on this month, to actually put a shovel in the ground, but they're in the process of trying to remove the 2 bus companies that are basically trying to stay on the property, but that's city-owned land. And they're using every legal tactic to try to stay on the property. But the last hearing, the judge did state that they have to be removed from the property, and hopefully the marshals will be serving them this week to remove them from the property.
Yes.
Okay, talk about the sanitation.
You gotta give your name.
Oh, Mrs. Hunter, you need to use the mic. Mrs. Hunter, Harmony Park. I need to know that sanitation one up there.
That's on Atlantic Avenue. What are they gonna do about that when it's up there?
That that's community board aid. That's Crown Heights. That's their garage.
Okay. Something needs to be done, because that affects us. We in on the opposite side. You see, because they on the other side. Yeah, it needs to be, work needs to be done to that, is what I'm saying, because the trucks are on Atlantic Avenue.
So let me say this. So Atlantic Avenue is the border, and if if those trucks are parking on our side of Atlantic Avenue, just
Yes.
give my office a call.
Yes, they are,
So just give my office a call, and I will call the district manager of CDA.
Okay.
That happened before.
Yeah, they park, yeah, they park.
So just let me know.
Okay.
Any other questions on the budget? There are no other questions on the budget. I'm gonna close the public hearing, and we're gonna move on to the community announcements, and we have a list of the announcements.
Yeah. Let me get it.
So if you could please be ready in this order and keep your announcement to 2 minutes or less. Allison Shillingford, followed by Susan Knott from the Bedford Adult Learning Center. Overseer Modestine, do you need to speak again? Or do you leave? Followed by Richard Ago, I can't make this up. No. Okay, Allison.
Hi, my name is Allison Schoenford, and I'm the founder and executive director of the Navigate the Basics to Achievement. We prepare Black students in Bedford for the specialized high school test. We're a nonprofit. And we're recruiting students now. So if you know any Black seventh graders that scored a 3 or higher on their state or state and ELA test, we are prepping them. We're not just prepping them, we're also supporting them once they get to high school. This is our 3rd year. Our 1st year, we had 15 kids take the test. Out of those 15, we had 3 at Brooklyn Tech and 1 at Brooklyn Live. Our 2nd year, we had 20 kids take the test. We'll get their results next month. So we're looking for 7th graders that really want to go to a specialized high school. We be with them on Saturdays and 6 weeks during the summer. And I'll have flyers out there if anyone knows of any 7th graders that might fit that. Thank you.
Thank you. Is Susan not here?
Yes.
Hi, my name is Susan Knott. I'm with the Brooklyn Public Library's Bedford Adult Learning Center at 496 Franklin Avenue. I just want to make sure that the community knows that there are now 7 branches and learning centers in the Brooklyn Public Library that administer the TASK test. That is the GED in New York State. So we're very excited that the Bedford Learning Center did our first testing today. Snow and everything. So we want to make sure the community knows there's other options now because we know there are long waiting lists in some of the other places that give the test. That is in addition to our regular educational programs. We work with any adult who does not have that high school diploma yet, from basic reading and writing help all the way up to I've passed 4 subjects on the test and just need help with my math. We gotcha. So the phone number at the Bedford Adult Learning Center is 718-623-2134. Myself or anyone on my staff will pick up that phone and will answer your question. If we can't answer your question in the moment, we will get back to you as soon as possible with that. So anyone without that high school diploma, 17 and older, who is not enrolled in school right now, have them give us a call.
Which library is that?
This is the Bedford Library in Franklin.
Okay, so that's Franklin and Hancock?
Franklin and Hancock. Yep.
Thank you.
You can just walk in and take the test?
You cannot just walk in and take tests. You have to fill in an application and have that submitted. But you can walk in and get all the information in the application and what you need.
Thank you. Is Ricardo, I can't make out the last name. Ricardo here? Red Bank? Okay. Jocelyn Taylor?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Joycelyn Taylor, and I'm the chair of the New York City MWBE Alliance. If there are any business owners in here, on March 12th, The Alliance, along with a number of organizations, are going up to Albany to lobby for 15A. So if your business is not already certified, or if you are a business owner, you want to support a business owner, I can give you my card so you can come up. And what 15A is, for those who you don't know about it, is the law that says that 30% of any contract that the city gives out should be, 30% of those funds should be spent with minority and women-owned businesses. And right now, the city and the state is only spending 4%. The city spent $20 billion last year in the procurement of goods and services, which means that almost $7 billion was supposed to go with minority and women-owned businesses. And this is important because of the fact that when we were here tonight, they were talking about a lot of projects. $200 million for a sanitation station, $160 or $170 billion that the state has, all the money that the city has. We are paying taxes into this system. We should not be paying taxes to build wealth for other people. So if you are not a business, and if you have a business idea, if you are a business, if you're looking to get your business certified, go out there and take a chance and market your business to the city. This is our money too. And if we're not starting businesses and taking advantage of it, we're almost modern day sharecroppers. Because we're paying into a tax system and building wealth for other people. So again, March 12th, if you're available, please come out, support. The buses are free. Bring a friend, be a friend, tell a friend. Thank you.
Thank you. Shonda Lindsay. And last speaker will be Faye Moore.
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Shonda Birch. Me and my counterpart, Lindsay and Shirley, will be I'm sorry. So we're having an organization where we're collecting petitions. Our headquarters is on Atlantic Avenue. Just a petition drive to hold President 45 accountable for his actions. So if you know anyone who is a campaign organizer or recruiter or just need a job, you pay $15 an hour. And $75 per shift. Open availability. If you want to contact us, our phone number is 646-830-9989, and you also can start as early as tomorrow.
What's the name of your organization?
Need to impeach.
Okay.
Need to impeach.
Thank
Need
you.
to impeach.
Is Faye Moore here?
Yes.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Faye Moore. I'm here from Friendship Baptist Church. This year, we're hosting Thrive New York City's Mental Health First Aid, and we're hosting all classes. So on Saturday, March 16th, from 9 to 5, we'll be hosting the certification for mental health first aid responding to youth. On April 27th, we will be hosting the mental health first aid module responding to the elderly. The regular adult certification will be held on Saturday, May 18th. And on June 16th, we will be hosting the mental health first aid for military personnel returning home. I understand there's a veteran subcommittee. I'd like to speak to that person. This certification is free. The class is 1 day. You get a certificate. It is good for 3 years. And if you're interested, you can see there are flyers outside. You can call the church, or you can give me your name and email before we leave tonight. Thank you.
Do you have a flyer?
Yes, there are flyers outside, and I have flyers in my purse.
Thank you. Okay, we're gonna move on to our roll call.
Babatunde Akwe.
Present.
Felicia Alexander. Present. Taiwan Anthony. Present. Monique Antoine. Dr. Kim Best. Present. Anthony Buzarek. Michael Kaplan.
Present.
Ivy Campbell Cobb is excused. Evelyn Collier. Pastor Gwendolyn Dingle. Diana Evans, Mark Fasal, Richard Plateau, Sharon Forbes, Keith Forrest, Gregory Glasgow, Shea Greenfield, Mary Jameson Head, Abby Robinson Hobson, Oma Holloway, Everett Hughes, Therese Iriarte, Edna Johnson, Dr. Curling Johnson, Dr. Deborah Lamb, Marion Little, Dionicio Liz, Marty Joe Long, W. Matthews is excused, Kenneth Mbono, Ellen Miller, Aldika Murray, Melissa Plowman Norman, Kwaku Payton, Satina Payton, C. Doris Penn, Karen Rao, Carolyn Richburg, Stacy Ruffin, present, Suzette Shepherd, Jamela Swift, Chinulu Udo is excused. Reverend Dr. Robert Waterman.
Here.
Douglas Williams. T.J. Wilson.
Okay, committee updates and resolutions, and we actually have, bylaws, which is gonna be one of the committee reports, which is important because in amending our bylaws, they have to give 2 consecutive, reports on the bylaws. So we'll be hearing from the bylaws committee. Are there any other committee updates and resolutions? Okay, so I think we have a few.
Okay, I'm gonna do the housing committee report. Housing committee, they're meeting next Wednesday. On the agenda item, a presentation pertaining to property called the Cow Commons. Those are city-owned lots near Sugar Hill Restaurant and in Marcy Pool. There'll be a presentation on that. Also, there'll be a presentation on the housing development that's going to go up on Sumner Houses, Knighton property. We'll have that presentation. Also, and presentation by St. Mark's Church, who is looking to win the RFP for the lot on Fulton between Ralph and Howard. They'll be one of the developers presenting in trying to get the RFP for those properties. So that's next Wednesday, Housing and Land Use, 6:30 p.m.
Hi, I'm the Education Committee. We will have a workshop on March 28th for parents and students regarding social media. It will be an interactive workshop that in partnership with Digital Grow Inc. To really talk about the good and the bad of social media and how to manage your phone and parental controls, as well as giving the do's and don'ts to students, particularly middle school and up. That will be held on March 28th at 5:30. You're still, flyers will be out soon, but just wanted to get this to your attention. As of March 18th, we are having the Best of Ed Sky again, and we're taking nominations for the best teachers, the best parent coordinators, parent leaders. The nominations will, the sites to put nominations, to make nominations will go up on March 18th, and we'll have a month to make your nominations. It will end on April 18th.
The Civic and Public Safety Committee will, for the months of April and May, will not be having their meetings on the first Tuesday of every month. Of April and May. They'll be having their meetings on Friday, April 5th, and on Friday, May 3rd. Just for those 2 months. For Friday, April 5th, we'll be meeting at 6 o'clock, and Friday, May 3rd, we'll be meeting at 6 o'clock. We'll resume the first Tuesday in June. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. So I'm speaking from the Bylaws Committee.
What's your name?
Karen Rao. Hopefully, everybody has had a chance to look at the new set of bylaws that we have. There have been several changes, and I'll go over all of them right now. So the first set is on page 2. If you look at meetings notice, we now have an expanded list of how members will receive notice of meetings or any type of communication. It can be either done through fax, email, or hard copy sent through postal service. So that's one important change. The next change is if you look at elections, so we have a general election process, which is pretty much, what we're doing now. And then if you look at the voting section, it basically talks about what happens if you have 2 leading candidates. So we'll have a runoff election, and the candidate with the most votes in the runoff wins the election. Then we would have a special election. This is a very new change because it explains what happens if there's a vacancy in the positions of second vice chairperson, treasurer, or secretary. So as the new bylaws would state, with less than 6 months remaining in that particular officer's term, the chairperson will appoint the member to fill the position on an interim basis until the next election. However, a special election will be held if there are more than 6 months remaining in that officer's term. And the next section just outlines what that special election process is. The next set of changes are minor changes. Section 9, which is on page 7. Page 7, we now have Parks, Arts, and Culture Committee, Housing and Land Use Committee, and we also have Landmark and Preservation Committee as a standing committee. Section C, committee membership. This is something that we did not have in the original bylaws, which is committee voting. We now have a section, public members may vote if they meet either of the aforementioned requirements, attend 3 meetings over a 6-month period, complete an application subject to the approval of the committee chair or the Brooklyn CB3 chairperson. They'll be subject to the attendance requirements, and their vote can also be revoked, either for cause by the committee chair and or the Brooklyn chairperson if they don't abide by the attendance requirements. The next few sections, these are minor changes in the wording of certain sections and the roles and responsibilities of certain committees. If you'll see the Civic and Public Safety Committee, there's a section that's highlighted, and that's the same for Transportation, Sanitation, and Environment Committee, Housing and Land Use, and then, as I said before, we added the Landmarks and Preservation Committee as a standing committee, so we have outlined their roles and responsibilities in number 12. The next major change that was not in the original bylaws involves community board members. If a member fails to cast a vote on all matters before the board, then they shall be marked absent by the secretary, which is critical in just your committee board membership. So if a member does not get to vote, they leave the meeting early, then they'll be marked absent. And the last major change is on the last page, a section that we added on page 18, removal of at-will employees. Employees of Brooklyn CB3 are considered at-will and are subject to the personnel rules and regulations of the city of New York. And you you refer to that section concerning employee removal and disciplinary action. And those are the changes to our bylaws. At the next meeting, we'll be recommending that the board adopt the changes in the bylaws.
Any questions for the bylaws committee? They've been working on this one closely here. So, okay.
Point of clarification, we use the charter, we look to the local borough president and other community boards as a reference as we updated these bylaws. Thank you.
Thank you.
We ask the question now or next week?
On to the next one. So we have a resolution from the landmarks committee. One resolution?
Yes.
Okay.
One of us have a resolution as part of the package. It's for an empty lot that's on Baycon Street between Marcus Garvey and Lewis, adjacent to Brown Sugar Restaurant. If you look at the color in it, it's actually the new construction. That's just adjacent to the restaurant. Application 1932-410, 324 Baycon Street, block 1669, lot 2. I'm not going to read the entire resolution. The application for 324 Baycon Street, Brooklyn, New York, 11233, is seeking to erect a new 4-story structure with stair bulkhead on a 17-foot vacant lot adjacent to the Marcus Garvey corner building where Brown Sugar Restaurant is located. On February 9th, at a regular scheduled meeting, they presented to review the renderings of the 324 Baycon Street. The presenters were Lakshmi Samuel and Gerald Caliendo, Architect PC, representing the owner. The owner, Sharon Hackman, was not in attendance. This was the project's second time for the committee. They presented revised plans and renderings to clarify discrepancies noted during the initial presentation of December 10th. The committees recommend the following: in lieu of pay on the front facade, consider constructing the building as a townhouse consistent with 326 Baycon Street, left adjacent. The proposed bay lacks convincing detail, its weight, substance, and scale are not consistent with the district historic aids. Furthermore, the committee is concerned about the effect of the new building's physical construction between two adjoining historic structures. The committee encourages the commission to use this authority based on the New York City Department of Building temporary technical report 1088 to compel monitoring and the retention of structural engineer to protect the adjacent properties. The agency and the BOP must take the steps necessary to ensure that this construction is done with the utmost care. A motion was made and duly seconded to provide a resolution in support of the project with stipulation that a bay window design be enlarged or eliminated altogether. And the front entry doors, stoop, ramp, and are modified to the satisfaction of LPC. Committee further stipulates that all missing design information noted above is to be submitted to the committee and LPC prior to the LPC public hearing. Motion passed unanimously 11-0-0. We're asking for the board to support the committee's recommendation for the construction of the student building.
So you heard the recommendation from the vice chair of the Landmarks and Preservation Committee regarding 324 Baycon Street. Is there a motion on the recommendation made by Mr. Busarek? Moved by Edward Johnson, seconded by Felicia Alexander. Any questions? Okay, take a vote.
Babatunde Akaway,
Yes.
Felicia Alexander,
Yes.
Taiwan Anthony,
Yes.
Dr. Kim Best,
Yes.
Anthony Bozarth. Michael Catlin.
Yes.
Pastor Gwendolyn Dingle.
Yes.
Mark Purcell.
Yes.
Richard Plateau.
Yes.
Keith Forrest.
Yes.
Mary Jameson Head.
Yes.
Abby Robinson Hobson.
Yes.
Oma Holloway.
Yes.
Everett Hughes.
Yes.
Edna Johnson.
Yes.
Dr. Curly Johnson.
Yes.
Dr. Deborah Lamb.
Yes.
Hardy Joe Long.
Yes.
Ellen Miller. Melissa Plowden Norman.
Yes.
Satina Payton.
Yes.
Karen Rao.
Yes.
Carolyn Richburg. Carolyn Richburg.
What am I voting on? This is all for
This is a landmarks committee resolution regarding 324 Macon.
I don't understand.
Stacy Ruffin. Yes. Suzette Shepherd.
Yes.
Reverend Dr. Robert Waterman.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, we're gonna move on to action on public hearing. Now, the only public hearing we had was on the budget, and it was a report by Mr. Yusuf. So is there a motion to accept his report?
And I second.
I think it was moved by Edward Johnson, seconded by.
If I heard and I.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Dr. Johnson,
Yes.
Dr. Curly Johnson moved to accept
Yes.
the report on the budget, and seconded by Edward Johnson. Any discussion? Okay, we're not gonna do a roll call, we'll just do a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Okay, do we have, could you just give the forums?
Today's attendance, we have 46 board members. Today we have 26 present and 20 absent.
Okay, so we just barely have a quorum. We barely have a quorum. 26 present. Okay, I'm gonna just very quickly, I have a couple of things on the chairperson's report. First thing, we received a resignation from Shanita Wells. She sent in a letter last week. She's resigning due to personal reasons, so we wish her well in her future endeavors. Couple of things I'm going to repeat. For training, we sent out emails several times to community board members. We had funding this year for training, and may not have it again next fiscal year. So please, if you're interested, this will be like the last call. Contact the board office, let us know if there are any courses that you would like to take. And they have to be approved. You can take up to 3 courses. I think we're the only community board in the city that allocated money for training, both for the staff as well as for the community board. Also, another final call item, we did receive requests from several committees to fund projects from those committees, so this will be the last call. For any committee chairs, vice chairs, and co-chairs, if you have a project that you would like the community board to fund, we need to get a budget from you. We have limited funds left from the supplemental city council allocation from last year, so this will be the last call, and we would need that information from you by the end of this week. Finally, we're in the process of completing an audit regarding the community board sexual harassment policy. So we'll probably give a report on that at the next meeting. Is there a motion on acceptance of the February 4th minutes? Moved by Ed Johnson, is there a second? Seconded by Dr. Deborah Lamb. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second? Second, all in favor? Any opposed? Meeting adjourned.